Hey guys, welcome back again to Gather and Nibble Kitchen. Today we will be making a simple recipe, a chips masala recipe. It is simple but yet so delicious. To get started, we will need onions, you will also need tomatoes, as well as ketchup. You will need beef cubes. We'll also need cilantro, both the stems and the leaves. And we'll also use the following seasoning, which is garam masala, turmeric, salt, black pepper, and garlic powder. We will also need to use tomato paste for this recipe, about 2 tablespoons. And you also need minced garlic for this recipe. And of course, the star of the show, we will need our potatoes, which will be cut in this shape of like fries. You try just and make sure that they're all about equal sizes. If you have a fry thingy like that, one of those gadgets that cuts perfectly cut fries, props to you. You can use that for this recipe. Unfortunately, I didn't have mine in this particular recipe video, but I just kind of manually cut them the best I could to equal sizes. To get started, we're gonna go ahead and start frying up our onions to make the sauce. And you need about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Add your onions and just let them saute and cook down for a few minutes. We're not looking to have them be translucent, but a little bit caramelized in this recipe. So just take your time, give them a few minutes to cook down. And as you can see, our onions are coming together. We're gonna go ahead and add our tomato paste. I actually forgot to add garlic and cilantro stems in this step. Usually I would cook those down with the onions as they're cooking down. However, I forgot, and so you kind of see how I improvise later on. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and cook down the tomato paste until it is fully cooked, and then we'll go ahead and go on to the next step. As you can tell, the tomato paste is pretty much cooked, so we're gonna go ahead and add our diced tomatoes into this pot, and then we will cook those down and let them simmer for about maybe 3 to 5 minutes until they're like mushy, and you can just crush them with your cooking spoon when you open the pot. As you can tell, the tomatoes are cooking and they're pretty much mushy at this stage. And so in this moment, you'll also notice that I will improvise and add in our garlic as well as our cilantro stems that I forgot to add in earlier. I'm just gonna create a little well in the middle, as you see here in a second, just so that I can just saute them in there for a quick second. Typically I wouldn't do this, and I don't think it changes the taste of the chips masala at the end, whether you put them before or after. However, I do prefer to just cook them at the beginning step with the onions. And I just added a little bit of oil just so that it helps them cook and they don't burn and stick to the pot. And you just give this a few minutes, maybe 2 to 3 minutes to cook down, and then you mix it all in soon. Go ahead and mix it all in with the tomatoes, and as you see, it comes together at the end of the day. In this kitchen, we're all about improvising. We're not trying to be perfect. I am not a Michelin star, chef. I'm here to make the best meals I can for my family, and I'm sure when this goes on the table, it will be delicious. So you make your meals however you do, and I'm sure the people in your household will appreciate you either way. And then as you can tell, at this step, I'm going to go ahead and add the beef cubes as well as the rest of the seasoning, and I'll cook that down for a few minutes. And you'll notice that the color of the sauce kind of changes to a little bit darker. That's just because of the seasoning that I'm using, and especially the beef cubes and garam masala. They will change the color of the tomatoes, of course. But don't worry, we're not eating color here. We're eating the food, and the food will be delicious. And at the end of the day, you'll see that the color is not that bad. It just turns a little bit more on the brown side, and it doesn't stay as red as you would like it to stay. And then after simmering for a few minutes, you want to come back in and stir and make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom of the pan. I would even recommend cooking this at medium low heat at this point, just because you've already added your seasoning and you are more likely to notice that it sticks to the bottom of the pan. I added a little bit of water just to help deglaze a little bit of the stuff that was sticking to the pan. But if you are cooking on low heat, you shouldn't have this issue. However, I am a speedy, trying to get things done kind of person. I had just come from work actually on this specific day that I was shooting, so I was in a rush, but I was still trying to record a video because I'm really trying to up my consistency. And then on this step, you notice that the tomatoes are pretty much cooked. The seasoning is well cooked. You also add now your ketchup. The ketchup is just kind of to give it that little sweetness in the background. You could use a little bit of tomato sauce and sugar, but I just prefer ketchup. It's readily available. It's right there in my fridge. So yeah, that's what I used for this recipe. And you just mix that all in, and then we'll set this sauce aside and move on to cooking our fries. And then we'll come back together and put it all together. All right, get your potatoes, make sure they're all dry, there's no water on them so you don't burn yourself. And we're just gonna go straight into frying these potatoes. I would do mine in 2 batches. I didn't use a lot of potatoes, so I'm just gonna cook them in 2 batches. That should be about enough for them to cook evenly and comfortably in the pot. And so we're just gonna go ahead and put them in here and let them cook for about 5 to 10 minutes. You can, watch this, and if your stove cooks faster, you can take them out sooner. But for me, it took about 10 minutes for each batch to cook. I think this is the longest part of the process, is just frying the potatoes. But then again, it's not really a lot of work. And then I came in and just kind of swirled my spoon around just to make sure that they're not sticking to each other or to the other. And then I checked if they're cooked by using a fork. You don't need them to be brown, you just need them to be cooked through for this recipe. And then I'm just gonna put them on a plate covered in paper towel on the side, just so that they can drip all the oil into the paper towel, and then we will move on to the next step. And you repeat this exact same thing for the next batch of potatoes, and you cook them again for about 10 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next step. And at this stage, you can also, allow your oil to heat back up for a few minutes. Unfortunately, I didn't. Again, I don't have the time. I'm just trying to get this done. And so as you can tell, the oil came back to temperature and the potatoes are cooking perfectly fine. And we're going to go ahead and finish cooking the fries so that we can go on to combining them with the sauce. All right, now back to our sauce. As you can see, it's been resting and it doesn't look as brown as I actually thought it did. Maybe it's just from my perspective, but it looks pretty good to me. We're gonna go ahead and add our cooked potatoes, and don't forget to salt your potatoes. When I was taking them out of the oil, I would sprinkle a little bit of salt, just so that they are also, seasoned. You don't want bland potatoes. However, because your sauce is also well seasoned, eventually they will have that flavor. So we're gonna go ahead and mix them into the sauce gently, just because your potatoes are cooked. You don't want to end up mushing them and then they end up being mashed potatoes instead of chips masala. So you're gonna go ahead and mix it in gently. Take your time with it. There's no rush. At the end of the day, this is the last step to this recipe, and you don't need to be hurrying to anything after this. We're gonna go ahead and garnish with our cilantro leaves. And voila, that's our chips masala. Simple, quick, yet so efficient. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below, and go check out my food page, Gather and Nibble _ See you guys next time, and thank you for watching. Bye.